What the hell is this? Where am I? What is this background? This fancy lighting going on? Yes, folks, I am back. I am in my new place. Still not completely done yet, but this is a good glimpse into it, and I figured this is a big video talking about the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. Is it really worth the $50? And I figured, you know what, let me show you guys the new setup. So if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like and share the video as well, but without any further ado, let's talk about this, because the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack has had a lot of controversy around it. I mean, there's really no ifs, ands, or buts about that, and it really boils down to the price point. The price of this is, of course, $50 a year, and many people weren't expecting it to be that high. Obviously, they added in N64 games, and they also added in N64 games and Sega Genesis games, which was a nice thing. And then they talked about the whole thing with Animal Crossing, where you were getting the DLC for the game if you had the expansion pack for free, and that made a lot of people nervous about the pricing. And then of course we learned it was $50. Most people, myself included, expected maybe $35 around that sort of price point. So it was definitely a hard sell for a lot of people, and I completely understand why. Now, really the whole draw to this is of course the N64, at least for me. You know, I love the Sega Genesis. Obviously I'm a big Sega kid, but the fact of the matter is you can play Sega Genesis games on your Nintendo Switch already with the Sega Genesis Classics collection. Now, I do have some footage of the Sega Genesis stuff playing over my voice right now, and this is from the Nintendo Switch Online service version of these games, which, as far as I can tell, you know, they're just the standard Sega Genesis games. You know, there's nothing crazy going on here. Obviously, most of these games you can already play on your Switch, like I said, on the Sega Genesis Classics collection. I didn't check out any of the online stuff with it. You know, a lot of these games, they don't really lend themselves online. Like, what are you gonna play, Sonic 2 and have like some ass-beat Tails or something, or like do the stupid split screen mode that sucks and it's all slow and stuff anyways? Like, nobody wants to do that. So Sega Genesis looks and runs fine. You know, it looks and runs as it should. No real issues with input lag or anything like that. So I was pleased with that, but I was more interested in the N64 stuff, because like I said, that's sort of the appeal for a lot of people. Now, I did play some online stuff with the N64. I'm going to show you that first before we get into the sort of meat and potatoes of the whole situation. I played with Spawnwave and I played with Nate the Hate. Now, I was the host for this. My internet's pretty damn good. You know, it's pretty high speed, because I mentioned that because I see a lot of people online, like Twitter and social media, saying that they're having major issues with input lag and, of course, just lag in general with the games, which is a common thing. You know, I had issues with some of the NES and Super NES games when I checked those out online, but I was really hopeful that for at least me personally, the games would run and look smooth, and really for the most part there wasn't any major issues. We played 3 different games. We played Mario Kart 64, we played Star Fox 64, and we played Mario Tennis. Mario Kart 64 felt fine. There was definitely a little bit of lag as far as the input lag was concerned, which is why like my racing skills just look absolutely horrible, and I had no idea what the controls were or anything like that. But you know, it felt decent enough. It felt like something you could have fun with, as long as you're not being like super competitive or anything like that. Star Fox 64, on the other hand, felt absolutely flawless. Like, Star Fox looked and played flawlessly, at least for me. I did check in with Nate and I did check in with Spawnwave after our match, and they said that they had no issues either, and everything was very, very smooth. This was a great experience. It was so much fun. There was a lot of high tension with it, and everything looked and played great, and there was like no input lag whatsoever with it. So Star Fox 64 was absolutely fantastic. Now, Mario Tennis, once again, there was a little bit of input lag. It really isn't a game that I'm super familiar with. I never really played this game all that much on the N64, but you know, it played good enough. It was something that you could sort of adjust to after, like, you know, a first couple serves or whatnot. You could sort of get used to the input lag that there was, at least on my end. Very minimal, but still something worth noting. So yeah, my overall experience with the online was very good, honestly. I definitely had a lot of fun playing these games. Of course, you have to use your stupid cell phone if you want to do voice chat or anything like that, which I absolutely hate. But I was definitely very pleased with my experience with this. Like I said, your mileage is definitely going to vary with this, as it is a peer-to-peer connection sort of thing. There's no sort of servers or anything like that, so it's completely dependent on the internet that the people involved in the game are using. So if you got someone with crappy internet, it's going to affect your game. But really with the N64 stuff, I just kind of want to show you guys how these games look and how they play from a single player perspective, whether or not there's any sort of input lag or anything like that, and just how the games look in general. So we're going to start out with a classic N64 game, Star Fox 64. And I think this intro screen is actually a great representation of what you should be expecting with these games. Now, if you had a Wii U, if you were one of the 7 people who owned one, you would know that a lot of these games, actually I think all of these N64 games were available on the Wii U, so it's probably using that same sort of emulation. But whatever that emulation is, you could see it right here, and this is pretty much indicative of what you're going to see throughout this whole video. The text is blurry. Look at the Star Fox thing, it looks pretty blurry. You know, look at this screen, everything looks very blurry and it's not very crisp. But look at the character models. The character models look absolutely fantastic. And as you can see here, everything looks nice. Like, everything looks very clean. Look at the R-Wing, look at the water. Sure, there's going to be stuff in the background that doesn't look as good. That's pretty much what you're going to be seeing with this thing. And it's a lot of upscaling on the actual character models, or in this case, the R-Wing and things of that nature. Whereas, like, look at the ground. The ground is, of course, just a slab of green. The you know, textures on that area, the brown didn't look all that great, but then you have just nice looking stuff as far as your enemies are concerned and just the main things in the game. Now, like I said, this is pretty much the same emulation that was available on the Wii U, but most of these people that are applying this or that are considering buying this probably didn't own a Wii U, and I mean, you kind of missed out. There were some really good Wii U games, but I think this looks very good. Now, one thing I do want to mention is the whole control situation of this, because you got to look at like the controller here. It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Like, you're at a disadvantage if you don't have the N64 controller. And the N64 controller is, of course, being scalped for hundreds of dollars, and people are buying it, and, you know, it's damn near impossible to get one. Now, of course, third-party companies are going to be coming along, and there's actually some N64 alternative controllers already available on the Nintendo Switch that you can use for the N64 on the Nintendo Switch Online expansion service. But still, it's just like, this is stupid. Mass-produce these stupid controllers and allow us to customize our layouts, because that's one thing that just doesn't exist. You can't customize your button layouts for any games, and it's definitely something that needs to be on here, especially if you're charging a premium price for this service. But I will say that, you know, the games look pretty good. Let's go ahead and check out another game. Sin and Punishment really sort of sounds like a bad romance novel. Like, I don't know, some people are like, oh, you sinned, I'm gonna have to punish you, you were a bad boy. Like, come on, man, that's a weird name. But it's a great game, and a criminally underrated game, a franchise that, of course, really nobody cares about or whatever. But it's a fun game, and, you know, once again, you're seeing what this is going to bring to the table in terms of what this service is. The reticule itself looks blurry. However, all of the enemies and the characters themselves in the game look very nice. I will say this game controls pretty decently as well. It would be nice if I could use, you know, like the second analog stick as like, make it like a twin stick shooter, you know, because really at its core, that's what it is. But definitely another game that I think looks very nice, plays very nice, and that's what we're going to be seeing here. That's what really matters with this. And of course, the fact that you can play these games in handheld mode. Yes, you can play them on computers and emulators and stuff like that. It's like, okay, cool. Like, everyone knows that. Everyone knows about Project 64. That's not what we're talking about with this video. We're talking about what the service is and what it brings to the table. Let's check out one more game. And the final game we're going to take a look at is Yoshi's Story. Now, I played this game a bit as a kid. I remember renting it once, and I don't think I ever finished it or anything like that. But, you know, I think this is actually an interesting game to look at because, first off, it's a 2D game, and really you don't see many 2D games on the N64, but, you know, talking about those graphics with the 2D sprites and things like that, you don't really have much in terms of 3D in this game. So this kind of gives you a better look at what, you know, is actually going on with this as far as the emulation is concerned. I still think this looks nice though, you know, all things considered, considering the fact that we're not talking about 3D polygons and stuff of that nature. I don't like this guy. You know, give you a punch in the face. Like, let me through, you dickwad. All right, I completely forget how to play this game, and God, I hate this guy. He's already pissing me off. Let's get to my final thoughts on this. So, is the Nintendo Switch Online service worth So is the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack worth $50? You know, that's the question of this video that we're seeking to answer, and I really think it depends. I really think it depends on what sort of gamer you are. If you are a gamer who doesn't care about nostalgia, doesn't care about the old classic games or retro games in general, then obviously you have no interest in buying this in the first place. So, you know, thanks anyways for watching the video, but I'm not quite sure why you did. If you're more interested in the Animal Crossing stuff, you can always buy that separately, but you could buy the expansion pack and of course check out some games, you know, because I feel like a lot of Nintendo Switch owners might not have even been alive when some of these games came out. You know, the N64 came out in 1996. You know, if you were born in 96, you could buy liquor nowadays. So it's kind of interesting to see, and I'm kind of interested to see how people's reception is to this. As far as my impressions, was it worth my price point? I think for the most part, yes. And you know, that shouldn't come as a huge surprise to you because I'm going to get a lot of value out of the N64 games because I love playing these games and I have very fond memories of them. But I'm not willing to say that I love this service or anything. I kind of like it, I would say. And I think there's some things that need to be addressed with it. First and foremost, there needs to be proper button mapping. I should be able to do any sort of button mapping I want via the controls in this game. And the fact that I can't do that is very weird, and it kind of puts you at a disadvantage unless you have an N64 controller. Another thing I am a bit worried about is of course the future of this service. Now we got a decent variety of N64 and Sega Genesis games at the jump, but look at what they've done with the NES and SNES lately, or what they haven't done with it. There really hasn't been any amazing games coming to these platforms, and there's a lot of games you can still choose from on the NES and the Super NES. So the games that we've been getting just haven't been all that high quality. And of course you have the fact that the N64 library itself wasn't all that big. There was a lot of third-party games on the system, a lot of licensed games on the system, and obviously those games aren't going to be able to come to the service. So how often are we going to see new inclusions? How often are we going to see improvements done to the games? And just how often are we going to see games added to this service? That's something that's definitely a big question mark to me. But I think overall it's good. You know, it could be a lot better and there's definitely room for improvement, but what is here is good. And of course, you know, the whole online thing, it is dependent on your online connections, contingent on that. So if you got crappy internet, you're not going to be able to play these games online with your friends like you were hoping you would be able to. Those are just my thoughts on the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. Let me know in the comments section down below what you think of it. Did you already pick it up? Do you plan on picking it up, or is it something you're going to pass on? And you know, I completely understand all these different viewpoints. Like, I do think it's overpriced, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna get my money's worth out of it one way or another. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like and share the video. I hope you guys like the new little setup here. It's definitely something I'm going to be tinkering with as far as the lights and stuff like that. Like, I can change all the colors whenever I want. We want green? Oh, we want red? Oh, we want purple? That's kind of purple. It's not really that purple. But yeah, so I'll be messing around, do a little white. I'll be messing around and doing different things. So I hope you guys enjoy. I've lost my train of thought here. This video is going off the rails. Let's wrap it up. I'll catch you on the next one. Later.